My name is Tpatty. Welcome to my Interpersonal Communication Project for Liberty University course HSER 508. Next slide. In this presentation, I plan to identify my personal overarching goal, define enlarging the conversation, describe my behavioral blend and how it influences my conversation, define potential barriers in my interpersonal context and how I plan to deal with each one. Next slide. Identify and provide solutions to internal and external noise, and describe my plan of action to reach my overarching goal and to improve my interpersonal communication skills, which will invite others to join the conversation. Next slide. What is communication? Stewart states that communication is a continuous, complex, and collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines communication as a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior. Next slide. What is interpersonal communication? Stewart describes it as a communication that occurs between people talking and listening in ways that maximize the presence of the personal. Next slide. What is personal? It is who we are. Stewart states the personal is made up of 5 qualities that distinguish persons. 1 is uniqueness. It's a non-interchangeability. We are each unique genetically and experientially. 2 is measurability. Persons are unmeasurable. As stated by Stewart on page 33, even if a medical team records our height, weight, temperature, blood pressure, and blood chemistry, they will not have accounted for the person we are. 3 is responsiveness. Humans are extremely responsive, whereas objects are unable to respond. Reflectiveness. Persons are reflective, which according to Stewart means not only being aware of our surroundings, but also of our awareness. Addressability. Stewart states on page 36 that addressability is what makes the difference between talking to and talking with. You can talk to objects, but you can talk with persons. Next slide. My personal overarching goal is to be a level 1 listener as much as possible. Next slide. A level 1 listener is also an empathetic listener. In order to be a level 1 listener, I will need to refrain from judging while I'm listening, learn to place myself in the position of the speaker, see things from the speaker's point of view, pay attention to all communication, including meta messages, body language, and other nonverbals, be empathetic and have an okay attitude, learn to listen from the heart, show the speaker verbally and nonverbally that I am truly listening, and suspend my own thoughts and give attention solely to listening. Next slide. Enlarging the conversation. Enlarging the conversation means getting the most out of our conversation and understanding the other individual. How do we enlarge the conversation? Exchange identities, know who you are talking to, and let them know who you are. Stewart states on page 77 that identities are constellations of labels and establish social expectations that we have of ourselves and others. Nexting is another way to enlarge the conversation. It is described by Stewart on page 29 as doing something helpful next, responding fruitfully to what's just happened, taking an additional step in communication process. Next slide. Inhaling combines 2 active interpretive processes, perceiving and listening. Perception is defined by Stewart as a social and cognitive process in which people assign meaning to sensory cues. Perception is taking a picture through a lens and not through a window. According to Burley Allen, there are 3 levels of listening. The lowest level of listening, level 3, involves listening in spurts. It involves listening quietly, passively, and without responding. This level of listening is normally fake listening while thinking about something else. Level 2 listening is where the listener hears the words but is not really listening. This can lead to terrible misunderstandings because the listener is making the speaker believe that he is listening and understanding what they are saying when in fact they are not. Level 1 listening, or empathetic listening, allows the listener to hear and understand what the speaker is saying, verbally and nonverbally. It is listening from the heart, which allows one to understand, care, and empathize. Exhaling is the output or sending part of the communication. It is where the sender, or it is what the sender is putting out to the listener. Next slide. Don't get pulled into a flat brain tango. Peterson on page 23 describes the flat brain syndrome as where our stomachs expand with an overload of mixed emotions, They press the heart functions into bricks in our chest, sending our relating abilities south on us. The upward expansion flattens brains against the tops of our skulls, forcing our thinking, hearing, and seeing off kilter. When flat-brained, we can't hear well, see accurately, think straight, or act sensibly. It is during this time that we say and do things that we normally would not say. It is best to wait until we have calmed down enough that our brains can go back to normal before attempting to have a conversation where we can listen and be heard. Next slide. Peterson suggests using a talker-listener card. Use a card folded in half to place between the individuals. The talker side of the card instructs the talker to understand that he is the most bothered and owns the problem. His goals are to share his feelings and thoughts without accusing, attacking, labeling, or judging the listener. Next slide. The listener side of the card instructs the listener to know that he is calm enough to hear and does not own the problem. The listener's goals are to understand and to clarify what the talker is saying without agreeing, disagreeing, advising, or defending. By doing this, both parties will be able to speak and listen and know that they are being heard and understood. Next slide. My personal skills test revealed that my strengths are that I am insightful and have excellent listening skills. My potential strengths are that I have average communication skills, I'm relatively capable of communicating clearly to others, and I am somewhat assertive when I talk to others. My limitation is that I am not comfortable dealing with emotion. Next slide. My behavioral blend is S for what is expected of me, and SC or CS for this is me. For this presentation, I will talk about the this is me part of the blend. According to Carbonell, my Graph 2 personality type results show that I'm more passive than active. I'm people-oriented but prefer to be one-on-one. I don't like being the center of attention. Many people identify with me. Some people try to take advantage of me, and I make a great friend and listener. Others will see me as intelligent and knowledgeable, methodical, and investigative. I often feel nervous about moving forward without sufficient information. I am slow to make decisions without all the facts. I like things organized and in their place. It is my passion to serve with wisdom and knowledge. I don't like to let people down. I'm not passionate about being in charge or confronting others. I sometimes am taken advantage of. I respond best to those who are easygoing and soft-spoken. I don't like trouble or to disappoint anyone. My personality type can be beneficial to my interpersonal communication because I'm a good listener and I care about the feelings of others as well as how they think of me. A barrier to my communication would be that I don't deal with emotion well. These are what I will need to work on. Next slide. Noise pollution is anything that prevents a listener from hearing what the speaker is saying. There are two types of noise pollution, internal and external. Next slide. Internal pollution is noise inside the listener's head. Possible internal noise causes are fatigue, fear, prejudices, or boredom. To rectify this, the listener should try to clear their head and concentrate on the speaker. Next slide. External pollution is noise on the outside that prevents the listener from being able to hear. External noise includes others in the room speaking loudly, a radio or television turned up loudly, traffic outside, etc. The speaker should attempt to speak louder or request that the volume of the other noise be turned down and the other people speak more softly, or that the doors and windows be closed. If these things are not possible, try to move the conversation to another quieter location. Next slide. My plan of action with my overarching goal in mind to improve my communication skills, even when there is resistance and/or conflict, is to practice and utilize the skills I have learned in this course. I plan to practice the talker-listener card when needed for conflict so that we both will be able to talk and listen to try to solve the conflict. I will not attempt to discuss the situation in a flat brain tango. I also plan to practice the level 1 listening skills to enhance my personal listening skills and to attempt to pass these skills to others. By doing these things, I will be able to enhance my interpersonal communication skills and enlarge the conversation. Next slide. The end.